Welcome in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, back with you here. Good evening from Glendale. This is Mike Alexander. Jonathan Wilson back with us. Feeling better, Jonathan?
Yeah.
All right, and Josh Jacobs. So we got the
Thank you.
The trio here, the Troikas, they like to call them.
And we're fired up tonight, aren't we?
It's a great, beautiful Sunday night, and lots happening here. If you'd like to be part of the program, and we hope that you do, call us, please, at 866-870-5752. And remember, this is listener-supported radio, citizen-supported radio. And if they want to support this wonderful program, what do they do, Jonathan?
Go to radiofreelosangeles.net, and that'll take you to School Choice, our School Choice website.
Yes.
And that supports the program. There's a button there to click contribute, and
yes,
you can choose your contribution level.
And we want you to know that School Choice is taking off. It's more exciting than ever. We have new subscribers this week from Sacramento, San Diego, Northern California. In fact, I even had a subscription here a while back from somebody out of state, and I think it's a good friend of ours that used to live in Sierra Madre who's helping to support us.
Oh, yeah.
It
seems like the word is spreading.
He fled to Tennessee, or Tennessee, as they say back there.
Chris and
yeah,
Halcyon.
That
Let's
is
give
correct.
them a big shout out. They might be listening on Facebook.
I hope
so.
Bring some Tennessee barbecue back while he's at it, you know?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of our members leave the state.
We have, and you know, that's a big topic that we're going to go into tonight. We'd love to have you weigh in. There are many things that they call it. It's a huge topic here lately, and that is the great exodus from high-tax states to low-tax states. You call it here, you can call it CalExit, which at one time applied to California's effort to leave the Union, and now very often applies to people wanting to leave the state. So we know that. And there was a recent article here based upon census data that was released showing who the big winners and the big losers are. Now, the big states that experienced significant net domestic migration last year was Florida, and of course, 132,600 net immigrants. Arizona, 83,000 net immigrants. Texas, 82,000 net immigrants. Now, the big losers, of course, we don't know. What do those three states have in common? I'm not sure about Arizona, but Florida and Texas have no income tax, state income tax.
That's correct.
Arizona.
Let me guess the top three that losers.
All right,
let me see
go
if
ahead.
I can guess the top three losers.
Yes.
California.
Not necessarily in this order.
Okay, California, Illinois, and New York.
You got it.
All right.
I thought New Jersey was going to be in there, too.
Well, it no doubt is. So let me give you guys out there these numbers. New York lost 180,000 more people than it took.
That's remarkable.
It is. California lost 156,000 more than came in. Illinois, a much smaller state, lost 114,000 more than came in. Now let's look at California. What's that real number? My wife and I were talking about. We live numbers a lot, so we were talking about this net loss of migration. That's 156,000 net people that left. Well, there were people that came in. So how many people really left California? I didn't have a chance to look up.
I think I know.
Do you?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom. Guys, Gavin Newsom still says that California is the envy of the states.
I just want to know, are we paying for this analysis?
But California is still the envy of the country, according to Gavin Newsom.
Well, it certainly is. Returning to the numbers for a second.
Actually, California is envious of the rest of the states.
Well, stay with me here. So California had 156,000 more people leave than came in. But that number is deceptive because there must have been at least 200,000 people that came in to produce that number. There were a lot more people that left. Now let's go back to the number that we have discussed here many times, and this is the big problem for the states that have chosen to follow the federal government's practice of raising so much revenue off of income taxes. So here in California, we raise over half of our state income comes from taxes, from income taxes. Obviously from taxes, but half of it comes from taxes. The other half comes from fees, sales tax, 101 other things. But half of it comes from the amount of money that people pay on taxes. And in of that amount, one half of our state income taxes are paid by just 140,000 Californians. All right?
Really?
Yeah, just 140,000. So in other words, 140,000 people account for 25% of California's total income. Now take this exit number. Of the 140,000, who do they represent anywhere from the top guy or gal or couple, right? The highest taxpayer in that 140,000 to the lowest taxpayer in that 140,000 who's paying a lot. Number 140,000 taxpayer number 140,000 is still paying a lot of money. Now, if the people who are leaving, do you think it is the people who make the most money or the least money?
Yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
So in other words, even if you say you had 140,000, which is not much, we can lose 140,000. After all, we have 40 million people in this state. Well, you can't afford to lose all of that 140,000. And in fact, of the top earners, losing the top 20% of the 140,000 may be like losing the bottom 80%. You see what I mean? So those numbers skew. So all of a sudden, your revenues can go upside down. So we have this low-grade moron,
Gruesome Newsom.
Yeah, Gruesome Newsom, Gavin Newsom. We all have many names for this clown, and so
whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So this guy, hair boy here, is what we used to call these guys that comb their hair back.
Do you think? Well,
he makes me look like I'm going bald.
Yeah. Well, he got himself a head of hair. Libs love that. So in any event,
they're not plugs.
California, he claims, is still the envy of the world. Well, I think he's right in many ways, but the fact that he's right about that doesn't mean that California is envied in all respects, or that the fact that we're envied excuses the massive theft that we call government. So this is an example. The people of the state of California build this state over a period of 175 years since the gold rush. We build the state, and some load of government trash comes in, steals our money, regulates away our business, drives people out of the state, and the fact that the state is still very prosperous, he somehow wants to claim either credit for or use it as an excuse for his own behavior, which is to say, well, hey, what we're doing in the state isn't so bad because we're still the envy of the world. It is so outrageous and so arrogant. Isn't that just typical of government? It's how they operate. And this guy here sits on top of a massive lie that we call California. So then, let's go back and let's talk about other states. We talked about Illinois hemorrhaging people. You picked them, and they lost here last year 114,000 net immigration. Net 114,000 more people left the state than came in.
And is it a coincidence that those three states are controlled by Democrats?
No, it's not.
I'm kidding.
When we look at all this stuff, however, we see that Republicans' track record isn't exactly sterling either. We had Republican administrations in California. California government has been growing for years, and nowhere is Republican malpractice more in evidence than in their failure to manage the local budgets. So when we think about Republicans and their track record, let's talk about the federal level. Their track record is terrible at the federal level. So they've grown government. We back Trump and so forth, but we're adults here. So let's talk about these issues. I was reading here over the weekend one of, I think they call it the Corruption Chronicles or something, which Tom Fitton, who is the head of the Judicial Watch, he had written a book in 2012. Very interesting book. Towards the end of the book there, he's talking about how large government was growing, and he uses these large exclamation points to underscore Obama's proposed budget for 2012, which was $3.6 trillion. Exclamation point, bold, 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 underline, asterisk. Amazing. Well, Mitch McConnell and that other most useless of human beings, Paul Ryan, those guys concocted a $4+ trillion with plenty of deficits built in. And when we go to the local level, where we have a lot of Republicans working on city councils and elected there, they too uncritically, completely, unconditionally, and uncritically support public schools, which are a disaster, and completely and uncritically support fire and safety, which is a fiscal disaster. I know we have good fire. I know we have good fire safety and police safety. The quality of those services is not in doubt, but it's certainly Republicans as well as anybody else, and perhaps more than anybody else, who has unreservedly and uncritically supported the police force to the point where we have sergeants who make more in money and overtime than the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff in the United States. And when I point out these numbers to anybody in the federal government, believe it or not, or anywhere else, they're shocked. So there's plenty of blame to go around in this fiasco. And for some Republican to waltz in here, to sashay in front of a group of Republicans, say, I'm not a Democrat, we ought to boot him or her out as far out of that room as we can find. They're not small government people, and the mere fact that they're not Nasty Pelosi hardly recommends them to our attention here. Hey, we managed to find somebody here who wants to weigh in. We got Tony from Santa Clarita. How are you this evening? Line 1.
Hey, a lot of these people that are moving out of state, they're government, state, county, city employees who just retired, and now they're going to go move out of state, so they're going to be spending their California state, county, city pension somewhere else. It's not even going to be spent here.
That's right.
So what the state should do is if we got to send you a check in another state, we're going to charge you a tax. That's what they should do.
That's what they would do, charge them an exit tax. Well, as a matter of fact, this issue came up in the late 70s. And I'm not sure how old you are, Tony, but back in the 70s, in the wake of the Watts riots and increase in racial tensions, we found a lot of cities were having trouble retaining their cops. And most cities, for decades, had a requirement that you had to live within city limits in order to be a police officer, fireman, or really, I think many had applied that rule for any public employee. Now, that was back, when communities were actually affordable. But back then, there was an organization called PORAC, Police Officers Research Association, whatever it was, and they were one of the early kind of police union and advocacy organizations, and they filed civil rights suits to have these provisions of city law declared unconstitutional because it violated their First Amendment right of association, that is, to move freely about. So the requirement that you be a resident, or, Tony, by inference, remain a resident of California once you have once you're retired, would probably be unconstitutional, although let's put it this way, would be held unconstitutional, although we can certainly sympathize with it. But I think you're quite right. Did you see any numbers on that, or that's your anecdotal experience, Tony?
Oh, it's my anecdotal, because a lot of people in L.A., when they're retired, they either move to Vegas or Scottsdale, and Ogden, Utah is getting really big right now. Ogden, big.
Well, they take their houses, take the equity out of it, go buy another house, it's paid off, and they have money left over. That pension that comes in there, since they're now, it's a property right. It's money that they earned. It's a vested retirement, just like any other retirement benefit. And now it's going to be paid to you as a Utah resident, so California taxes won't apply. So here in California, they're getting a cost of living adjustment, which runs 2 or 3% a year, and on top of it, they get rid of the roughly 10% state tax. So they're just fine, and they leave the tax bill. And the fact is, what these people actually left behind, if you've listened to this show at all over the last year and a half, as you know, we haven't even paid for these pensions. You're aware of that, right, Tony?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that here in California.
And they want to buy a bullet train. They want to buy a bullet train instead.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, whoever came up with that idea ought to get the bullet. I'll tell you, man. Was that Jerry Brown? Was it Moonbeam?
No, actually, it was passed before Jerry Brown was governor. It was put on the ballot in 2008, and it was promised to be about $30 million.
Right.
But by the time I think
they don't want to build more, and they don't want to build more prisons either.
No, boy, we've got.
And they don't want to fix our roads.
Yeah,
no. And they keep on saying, the more we raise our taxes, we're going to build our roads or fix our roads.
Well,
the higher our taxes, the worse our roads.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, all government is a fraud, a hustle, and a con. And nowhere more so than with these pensions. And let's, Tony, for everybody out there, remember, the reason that we talk about these numbers is because you've got to realize what these people are leaving. They're not just leaving high taxes. They are leaving behind massive amounts of debt. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So in other words, they're skipping. That's what they call it when someone owes money to a creditor, or they got they didn't show to make their appearance in court. They call it skipping, right? They skipped out on the bail bond, so they left, and there's no basis constitutionally for us to impose a tax on a resident and say, hey, look, you can't leave unless you pony up the net present value of your piece of this pension obligation. No, and the people who have run up that debt and stuck us, all the rest of us who are still here, stuck us with it, those people are running. And it's interesting. I just love the fact that you raised this issue, Tony, because for several years we've been pondering submitting a public records request. Sometimes they call it a Freedom of Information Act request, like at the federal level. When California, they call it the Public Records Act. So we've been thinking of submitting a Public Records Act to the request to the state of California, specifically to CalPERS, to see how many of their pension recipients now live outside of California. In fact, I know of cases of current employees of the city of San Marino who actually live in Idaho and fly in here once a week to do
ex-LAPD live in Idaho.
Yeah, they do that.
But Mike, you're saying that San Marino employees actually live in Idaho and fly and commute?
There's some firemen there that actually commute. That's correct. That's correct.
Wow. They must get good frequent flyer miles.
Oh well, they get good primary salary. Now, the fact that they're employed here, and they're resident of another state, I don't know if they're able to avoid California state withholding. I would think not, because those monies are earned in the state of California. At least that portion of them will be payable. But that shows you the very high level of affluence experience.
They probably own their own jet. They probably go in together to buy a jet.
Oh, they probably do. Yeah. They probably have a jet fuel allowance that was negotiated.
They've got it figured out.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I know.
You know what you got to do?
What?
You know what you got to do? You got to find out what percentage of the gold in Fort Knox came from California, and see how much it's worth, and see how much we could get for it.
Well, I tell you what, you work on that for the next show. well, I work on this.
Do we get a share of it?
I think Tony's got some good ideas.
Tony does.
Right,
no.
thank you.
Hey, we'll have a little fun with you. Thanks for calling, Tony. Don't be a stranger, man. Okay, so we got 1 minute. Wow, the first half hour. Oh, 3 minutes. Okay.
Give us a call out there, 866-870-5752.
You
also,
got it.
follow us on Twitter for a School Choice 2020. It's twitter.com/2020choice. That's twitter.com/2020choice. Follow us on Twitter right now.
You got it. Now, we've been talking about these government people, and Gavin Newsom. He's so irritating. But
Whether you like it or not.
But he's not unusual. So I want to focus for a second on the so-called exodus of people leaving Chicago and Illinois in general. And they lost 150. Their overall population has declined by 157,000. Now, bear in mind, this is even though they're driving, flying, busing, and trucking illegals into Illinois to keep voting levels up, and they still lost 157,000 people who left the state. Now, it's a notorious
they don't call it Crook County for nothing.
But what I find most interesting about all these obvious things, the businesses that are leaving. There was one business, for example, and we see this constantly in California, but it's worth talking about here. There was a forklift manufacturing operation back there, operated by a guy named Vincent Flaska. Flaska sounds Polish or Eastern European, but he moved his lift truck operation, moved it from East. He had his choice going to East Chicago or going to Indiana. He went to Indiana. He saved $1.75 million a year on workers' compensation insurance, another $1.5 million on state taxes, and got $15 million in financial incentives from Indiana.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff.
Right. So then, so those manufacturing jobs, the problem is not just leaving the jobs leaving America, it's leaving certain states as well. Well, that music that you're hearing in the background means that we're coming up on the end of this half hour. I want you to, this is Mike Alexander, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Wilson here of Radio Free Los Angeles. We hope you come back after the half hour break, and we'll continue our conversation about California.
California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
And we're back live with you here, coming from Glendale. AM KRLA, AM 870, The Answer. Our telephone number here, if you'd like to be part of the program, is area code 866-870-5752. And don't forget to give us some love. How do they contribute and help keep the show on the air there, Jonathan?
Well, visit schoolchoice2020.org. That's
Yes.
schoolchoice2020.org. And on the in the top right, you can click Contribute.
Very good.
And choose your contribution level.
Sounds good. Josh, you had mentioned earlier the top 10 things California needs to do to bring the state back. Maybe if you'd be kind enough to locate that article again, we'll pick that up. But first, we have a caller from Glendale. Marilyn, how are you this evening? Hello, on line one. Marilyn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you this evening?
I'm okay. How are you?
Very good. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I'm calling about the California state tax issue for withholding tax when people are out of state.
Mm-hmm.
California makes you withhold California tax. They do not allow you to try to get away with paying tax in another state because the tax rates are different.
Right.
Now, you might be able to file your income tax and get a credit that way, but for withholding and payroll, they can't do that.
Right.
I'm not saying all companies do it correctly, because I worked for a company and a man worked in Arizona, and he fought me tooth and nail telling me how much I was wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Marilyn. I think if you earn the money here in California, carried as an employee, and especially if you're carrying out your work physically in the state of California, you're going to have to pay that tax. It would be different if you were rendering services at, shall we say, a service depot in Arizona, and you were that might be different. But no, Marilyn, I think you're correct. Are you do you work in financial administration at a company?
I did payroll for
okay. Well,
40 some years.
Okay. Well,
every state is different.
It is.
When you get back east, it's a lot different because so many states are so close together, and so many people commute from different states.
Yes.
So the laws get a little bit more lenient back there, but there's no way someone can commute from California to another state. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now, these firemen might think they do, but they don't.
Yeah, you can't and defeat the tax. No. You can commute if you want, but you're going to pay the tax if you're working here. No, I quite agree, Marilyn.
That's right.
And how about yourself? Do you plan to stay here in California, or are you, like tens of thousands of other Californians, are you contemplating a move out of the state?
I'm contemplating a move out of the state.
Tell us about that. Are you a woman of a certain age? That is, are you nearing retirement or past retirement?
I'm in retirement.
Okay.
I'm in retirement.
What states
but
are you?
I have an elderly mother that's here, so
Gotcha.
Some of it's going to depend on her.
Yep.
But no, it's too expensive here.
Yeah.
You can't afford to buy property. You can't afford to do anything.
Right.
And
yeah. Hey, how about your mom? Your mom's still with us, thank goodness, and she is elderly. What, her 80s or 90s?
Oh no, she's 90. She's 93.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So mom still has her house. You can need to.
No, that's already gone.
That's gone. Going for health care, which is sky high here too. Yeah, because of California minimum wage laws and draconian work laws, to get even moderate, not too demanding care for an elderly person, they can only work 8 hours at a crack. So to get round-the-clock care, you're looking at a $20,000 or $30,000 a month bill for some elderly folks, and it wipes out the estate, and that's government regulation. And it's not only death and taxes. They're gonna in California they tax you to death and then some. And next week, or the next time I'm here at least, we're going to talk about the proposed estate tax in California. And Marilyn, if you're not already prepared to leave, you're going to have a jet parked on the runway. When you hear about the proposed estate tax that California wants to impose, even though the feds have now reduced the taxation in the Trump administration down to where a couple can probably pass $22 to $23 million without paying estate tax. Well, these thieves here in California say, "Hey, whoa, hold it! If the feds aren't going to take that money, well, we're going to go down and we're going to start taxing it because people are leaving our state, and we've got this great big, huge $1 trillion plus pension obligation, and so much of the debt here in California all goes back to making work for basically public employees, and I want to emphasize the government as we know it is not only a criminal enterprise, but every government operation is there to grow itself, and everybody employed by government is there to pay themselves first, tax you forever, and then retire forever, and you're not going to be allowed to leave here pretty soon. We're going to start behaving just like the old Soviet Union. And I suppose at one time the Soviet Union was the envy of the world too. But Comrade
Can I
Newton.
say just one more thing?
Go ahead, please.
Well, my mom cannot walk, so she needs more care than someone who is just normally 93. So if you ever get a chance to investigate into that, what a criminal society of homes there are. It's just pathetic.
You're talking about the rest homes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Most all of them are privately run, and that would be a discussion for a few shows.
Yeah, it is. The scandals have been rife. And, there's another thing that we really have to keep an eyeball on, and that's this whole hospice care thing.
That's probably another racket.
Man, I'm telling you, I need to be better prepared to talk about this subject. But there's we know that when people are dying, it's no surprise that they went to hospice. And so, we look at hospitals, and if too many people die, well, then we investigate the hospital. Well, nobody investigates hospice programs because guess what? They wouldn't have been sent there if they weren't going to die. So when the hospice, it's amazing how these people die right on schedule, isn't it, Marilyn?
And there's different levels of hospice now.
Yes.
You can have hospice even if you're not that close to passing away.
Right. Yeah, but then, a lot of these people get in there, you see these increasing levels of medication that are administered. I think there's more than a little bit of euthanasia going on in those situations. One of these days, how's that for a picker-upper show? But in any event, it's one that concerns us all. Well, Marilyn, I want to thank. Oh, hey, what state are you going to? That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
We have bets going over here.
What you looking at? Which states?
I'm looking at Oregon, Washington, Idaho area.
Okay. Well, Washington has no income tax either.
Right, and that's a big plus.
It is, and there's we have good friends that live up there. It's a beautiful state, except for that cesspool that they call Seattle, with all the government and everything there. But so you're looking at Oregon, Washington, and where else? Idaho, yeah. So you like it a little bit cooler. I can't say I blame you. And those are all good countries up there, and you can still get housing at a reasonable price. Marilyn, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for being a listener, and we hope to hear from you again. All right, so back here, I want to return to our friends in Illinois. So, they're also losing college students to other states. Even the Mexicans are leaving Chicago, to going to other states. And they say they're talking in Illinois about the reasons why Illinois is declining. And what do you suppose is their top two reasons? Well,
I don't know, actually.
That's right. Jump in there.
I think it's income taxes.
No. What do the government?
What are their excuses?
The government. Okay.
Yeah. What do Democrats?
Well, because Jussie Smollett got attacked by MAGA people in Chicago. Maybe everybody's leaving.
It's
MAGA country.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Actually, that judge who dismissed the case is being investigated this week, according to the stories, because she was doing things behind the scenes. Kim Fox, she's being investigated, saying, "Wait a minute, something's not right here. Something's rotten in Denmark."
They've actually had a special prosecutor appointed back there to look into how this Smollett, however this jerk pronounced it, Smollett, this hustler, was committed his crime, how was investigated and not prosecuted. And you're not going to have to dig too deep before you find Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Rahm Emanuel, and the usual gaggle of trash. They're all in there. All the usual suspects. They've been with us for almost 30 years.
Is a cesspool.
It is.
It really
is.
Chicago.
Well, my grandma Helen, who lived there for about 30 years of her life, used to add the letter after S after I in Chicago. So that's what that's the way she used to pronounce it.
Right.
And so, it's in Cook County, but a lot of people call it Crook County.
Crook County has been for years.
I think the lawmakers in Illinois say, "What a bunch of ingratefuls these people are. They're just they're ungrateful to us."
Well,
that's why they're leaving.
So I want to get back to. So I don't know what are their excuses why people are leaving. I don't know.
It's typical, and actually, when I say them, you will recognize immediately. They say, well, the top two reasons why people are leaving is because we are not spending enough on education, right? Of course, right? And number two, we're not spending enough money on infrastructure.
Oh, gosh.
Right? So this relates back to what we talked about with all of government. And
that's funny. Wrigley Field just got renovated the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Well,
those are the same reasons that people are leaving California.
Yeah,
is that we don't spend enough money on public education.
That's right. Yeah, you'll see it's the same.
And we
thing.
don't spend enough money on our bridges and our roads. That's why everyone's leaving.
Right. and
where's that money for our bridges and our roads going? It's like they keep on saying this is for our bridges and our roads, but where's that money going?
These people are clowns. They really are. I mean, if anyone out there doesn't see this, please call us.
Well, they're criminals. Yeah. And they're only slightly less culpable than the real criminal neglect which goes on in our society, and that is the neglect of citizens to deal with this problem. So just to continue our theme from last week, yes, we can sit here all day long and curse the darkness, and we should curse it. But we must light the candle of citizenship. This is your responsibility. This is my responsibility. This is our collective responsibility. The only reason these people can engage in this nonsense is because citizens let them. They either go to the polls and vote for these guys, or worse yet, they fail to go to the polls, inform themselves, and identify another candidate who would be less inclined to do this. And these people, as long as it works, as long as you sit there, they are going to continue to do this. And there's a couple of things that you really have to do to save the state when it comes to citizenship, and we're going to come back to those. But right now, my good friend Ed Ring has written a recent article, which our indefatigable reporter here, Josh Jacobs here. We get the beep, 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 beep. All right. So he's identified. We have a news flash. Slowly and clearly, could you give us the top 10 things, just the labels, that Ed thinks we need to do to restore California?
I'd be happy to. It's from the article from the California Globe at californiaglobe.com. It's called California's Dying GOP Needs a New Living Political Platform. All they need is a Republican with courage. Now, it goes through a bunch of things, and I encourage you to read it for yourself. But number 1, a contract with America, public education reform. Number 2, enable charter schools. Number 3, housing abundance, repeal the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act that makes it easy for developers to build homes on suburban and exurban fringes instead of just infill that destroys existing neighborhoods. 4, helping the homeless. 5, restore law and order, which means repeal Propositions 47 and 57, which, gave early release to so-called nonviolent offenders. But the problem with those propositions is it only accounted...
Just keep reading them.
But
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's...
We'll go back and comment.
Comment on that. Okay. Number 6, CEQA reform, California's Environmental Quality Act of 1970,
right,
to be modified. 7, renewables pricing reform.
Wait, hold it. Slowly and clearly, what was the last one?
Renewables pricing reform.
Okay.
Number 8, nuclear power development. Number 9, water infrastructure funding. 10, additional highway funding. And you'll love 11 and 12. Pension benefit reform. And number 12, pension funds infrastructure investment.
Yeah, interesting. So, we're going to have to get Ed on.
Is that a recent article?
Yeah, it was from, checking the date right now, June 21st. So that's about 2 days ago.
Oh, we got to put that on our website. Yeah. Did you post that on Facebook?
I'll post it on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, good. Post it right now so anyone that's interested in that article can go to our Facebook page, School Choice 2020.
Right. We need, because... these are extremely important, and we've had Ed Ring on the show. If you've been listening to us for a while, Ed is a good friend of the California Taxpayers Union, good friend of mine, or at least political acquaintance. And we've met with each other and spoke with each other many times. And he and the California Policy Center are really right in sync with just about everything that we do. We disagree on a few things here or there, but right now, and we're going to go into these and other things in our as we go on. But right now, I have a special caller from South Pasadena. There's a homeless lady. Marcy is calling in.
Hi, Mike.
from a cell phone she borrowed from another bar, another drinker. From the pub. How are you this evening, Marcy?
I'm good. And I've been listening to the show, and I have one comment and a question for you.
Yes.
And my comment is on the the pension benefits and public employees leaving the state. And what I wanted to say is if they were on 401k, then it would be none of our business and nobody would care. It would just be a non-issue where they lived after they retire or whatever. So that's my comment. And my question is, when we were talking about the uncritical support of public safety earlier, there was an incident, I think it was yesterday, and a police officer was killed in a hostage situation, or some kind of situation. I don't know all the details. But they showed some video footage today where the community, they were trying to tape off the crime scene, and the community was really angry and threatening to the cops. And I was wondering if you'd heard about that and what you thought of that.
Where was this? What city?
Well, I think it was in Southern California somewhere. And it was a rookie cop who'd just been on the job, a woman who'd been on the job for about a year, and she was shot. And they couldn't get to her because the shooter was in the house, and he kept firing at the cops, so they couldn't get to her, and it was like 45 minutes, and then she died.
Oh, wow. No.
But it wasn't so much that. So it was a very recent incident. You may not have heard about it. But what I was wondering about was the threatening hostility of the community when they were taping off the crime scene towards the cops.
Right. Well, you have this. I mean, first of all, crime has been with us always, and there are populations in California, really everywhere, but particularly in California, for whom moral and behavioral standards have been lowered for years, right? I don't know if this was a predominantly Latino area, immigrant area where they got angry, or whether it was a black area, but these tensions between cops and the community are very real, and sometimes cops are too aggressive in their contact with the community, and we get bad problems, bad situations. I do not know anything about this particular shooting, but of course we hate to see anybody shot, and we really hate to see anybody, police officer, citizen, or anybody else die. But this is what happens in these situations, and another reason why cops require a high degree of training. Now, usually these situations are turned round back on me. So you say, you see, Mike, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You just got through criticizing public employees, and now here's evidence from one of your supporters that they live a very dangerous life and they deserve every penny that they get. Well, okay, I understand that, but we have people in Afghanistan who are living in true constant danger and are killed in large numbers, and they don't get anything like the salary. We don't even pay the top general in the United States military the same money that we pay some local cops. That's unsustainable. There has to be some reason, and you're always going to find people who will be willing to do that. So you're going to have to be much, much more reasonable in your salaries. Besides that, we are on track not to have any kind of policing because we're spending too much on the cops that we have. So as you know, whenever we talk about budget cuts, they start to talk about reducing positions rather than reducing salaries. Well, a lot of these police departments should be able to get twice the number of cops for the amount that they're paying.
Yeah.
They should be able to get twice the number of firemen for the amount that they're paying. And they say, well, we have very high standards. Well, you may have to change the standards because we're on track. We're on the way where there's going to be a very few public employees, and most of our money is going to be going to pay for pensions that were never fully funded to start with, and we're going to be sending that money out of state.
Yeah.
Right, and the only thing that's going to be left is you and me.
While they're cutting back services, are paying more for retired public employees, and especially police officers and fire, than they are on active duty.
That's right. Yeah, and we're starting to get 2 tiers of hiring, old cops, new cops, and that's why the California Supreme Court is going to have to deal with this issue, and the citizens are going to have to deal with this issue. And here tonight, I'm still not, even though we broadcast this to a wide audience, and even though we've been talking about this for a year and a half, I know that even tonight we're not going to get a call from any city councilman, we're not going to get a call from any state legislator, or even a union rep who's going to be able to tell us exactly how we're going to be able to pay for these pensions, except that, well, I guess taxes will have to go up, right? But they can't go up indefinitely. Well, that music that you're hearing means we're coming up on the end of our hour. Thank you, Marcy, from South Pasadena, for calling in and bringing those issues to our attention. At the next half hour, we are going to return to Ed Ring's prescription for fixing California, and I will add 2 critical steps for fixing California and the GOP when we return. This is Mike Alexander, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Wilson here, and we'll be back with you, Radio Free Los Angeles, right after the news break at the top of the hour here.
California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, back with you here, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Radio Free Los Angeles. If you'd like to call us here, we'd love to have you, 866-870-5752. We're on Facebook. How do they get to Facebook
Just
here tonight?
Go to Facebook and search our page,
yes.
Radio Free Los Angeles. Actually, you might want to, we're streaming live on Radio Free Los Angeles.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, on our Facebook page. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Love to have you up there. I can't tell if any of our friends are up there.
I get mixed up with all. We have a couple different Facebook pages.
Yeah, okay.
School Choice 2020, and then we have Radio Free Los Angeles.
Speak to him very slowly and clearly, and then we need your support here, and I'm going to go into more reasons why. Here, you go to RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Or to schoolchoice2020.org. Sign up there. The money goes to do a lot of things, to conduct our outreach to citizens, particularly families of all parties, of all persuasions, of all races, who are absolutely fed up with California's so-called school system and are ready to seize the future. And this is hugely important here. And Josh Jacobs here just uploaded the link to Ed Ring's article that we discussed here a few minutes ago that you will find at the CaliforniaGlobe.com. And it's Ed Ring's take on what the dying GOP in California needs here, which he says is a new living political platform. Well, it's an interesting headline there. Sounds like living, breathing constitution.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's using the left's language. Yeah.
It does. It does. So we got to talk
we're
with
pro-choice now, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Pro-school choice, yeah.
That's it. Absolutely.
That should be a bumper sticker, pro-school choice.
Yeah, that's it. Boy, by God, those teachers would find your car and they would chew that bumper sticker off of your bumper. And some of them are meaner than hell, as you know.
And they might sue me for breaking their teeth while they're chewing it off.
Yeah, so what you have to do is buy your own Prius and put your own bumper sticker on there, right? And
it'd be hard to remove, right?
It would, yeah. If you really want to make them crazy, find yourself an old Carrie Edwards bumper sticker or Gore Lieberman, right? You know, there's some people who I swear have a supply of those things, and you'll see them especially on Volvos. So you have all these people that have these, the libs tend to drive a lot of Volvos. Or I should say a lot of libs drive Volvos. And
I guess my mom's one of the few who does not.
I know.
Who's not liberal. Volvo.
Volvo is a very fine car from a socialist country here, but they love those things. But like all upscale drivers who drive Volvos, they like them nice and they're well kept. Even their bumper stickers that are 10 or 15 years old are brand new. So I'm guessing that these were the ones who bought them and put them aside, and they still have these things. It's just amazing.
And when it fades, they just put on a new one.
Put on a new one, right? Absolutely. So
that's pretty sad.
It is, yeah. So we need to get some Carrie Edwards and then really confuse them and put School Choice 2020 on it. And
Carrie Edwards did say a stronger America, right? So
yeah. That's it. John Kerry.
I'm John Kerry.
Reporting for duty. Okay, now let's get back to what is going to take here. About a year ago, Tom Del Beccaro, who used to be the chairman of the California GOP and who was notably unsuccessful, let us say. I'm not going to go after Tom individually. I don't think that's healthy. I don't have what I mean by that, not that I have any reason to, but I'm not going to single him out as a particularly or uniquely ineffective California chairman. That would go to the last jerk that we had. Who was he?
Jim Brulte?
Yeah, Jim Brulte. That guy actually took money from SEIU to help sponsor one of the brochures at the California GOP Congress. But in any event, the fact is here in California, or convention, not Congress. Fact is here in California, as Ed Ring points out, the Republican Party as a major force is dead. And he believes, Ed Ring believes, as I do, that California is ripe for the plucking. And he's a policy guy, and he's one of the best. He works with the California Policy Center and others. He's really a great guy and a brilliant man. So he goes through a list of things we have to do. He mentions pension reform, infrastructure, nuclear. In other words, California, and Gavin, you are right, California is the envy of the world. And instead of being the sixth largest economy in the world, we ought to be the second or third. And so it should be United States, China, and California. And the failure of Gavin Newsom and the liberals can be seen there. In other words, we're only achieving about 50% of our potential. This state is underpopulated. It is undercultivated. It is undeveloped. It's underhoused. It's everything. We are an amazingly large state. And when you look at how limited our development is, and intentionally so, it's remarkable that we're as high as we are and that we have the quality of life that we do have. But that quality of life is declining rapidly under the pressure of high taxation. So this state is ripe for the plucking. Ed is quite correct. We need an aggressive, positive plan to show how California can actually move forward, and it's got to be something other than what we have heard from time immemorial, which is, hey, I'm not a Democrat. How many Republican candidates, Jonathan, have you and I been involved in? How many candidacies have we been involved in? And there's this terrible sense of entitlement that because they are not Democrats, they are therefore entitled to our vote and our support and our money.
That's a good point.
And then these guys go off, but they don't really have any coherent ideas of what they're going to do. In fact, they're not even sure of the problem, except the Democrats are in charge. Well, that's a pretty good beginning point, but it's hardly enough to go out and make your case to the California business community and to people in the individual communities as well. How is their life really going to be better off if we have a Republican governor? Well, it won't be any good if we just keep doing the same things, supporting the same pensions. But there's one area, Ed, where I think you missed it, and that is when you're describing this bright new future for the Republican Party. I can assure you, sir, that those wonderful ideas in that platform, which I would endorse immediately without any reservations, that platform can't succeed without the political infrastructure of the party, and it has none. And the reason why Democrats win in this state is because we went over it on the program last week, class. Anybody? It's because the Democrats have a revenue model and we don't. Okay, so everybody out there, quit listening to all the rest of the talk radio. Quit scanning your phones. Quit watching YouTube crap on politics and Fox News and write down what I said, because that is the problem. So when we look, and I've told this until I'm blue in the face, and people still calling me and say, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. Oh, we'll get Judicial Watch to come in and sue somebody. Are you just out of your freaking mind? That is not the problem. So in California, the California Democrat Party is organized very well. It's organized around union money. And those 1.8 million public employees in the state of California pay in over $1 billion of dues each year. The California so-called Teachers Association pays in $1,000 per teacher per year. Those 350,000 members of that CTA pay, therefore, got your Obama phone, whip it out, $350 million per year. I said per year. I didn't say per election cycle. So the California Democrat Party has available to it through its various unions up to $2 billion each election cycle to do what they want. Now, what is the revenue model for the Republican Party? The answer is it has none. So you have to solve that revenue model or you're not going to be there. Now, on the California Democrat Party, they not only, Josh, have $2 billion every election cycle coming in, they've got 1.8 million people, each of whom is a paid partisan political activist. Do you see why you have to reduce the size of government? Absolutely. You see what I mean? You can't play with it. You can't regulate it. You can't do anything except get rid of it. And school choice is one of the first steps to doing that, because you're going to reallocate control of half of the California state budget away from the California Teachers Association to parents. Are you awake out there? Do you understand what I'm saying? Take this down.
I'm awake.
This is
the studio's shaking.
Yeah, this is Holy Writ. This is the soft version. You
better be easy on the desk in here. You're pounding your fist.
I'm not using any.
You remind me of Khrushchev.
Otherwise, Brian.
Let me get my shoe up here.
Yeah, Brian and Jen might have a desk tomorrow morning.
That's it. Yeah, I haven't cursed them. I have not touched them. All right, don't worry about Josh. But this is the point.
Yeah, school choice is the answer.
That's right, because it helps to cripple the political apparatus, because each and every one of these bureaucracies, particularly the school, when you look at the school, you think of a teacher. I don't, but most people would look at them and think of teachers and people who are really there for the children, right? They just love them and so forth. But when I look at that organization there, when I roll past the school, what I see are precinct workers. Those are the foot soldiers of the left, all right? So everybody out there, conservatives, Republicans, if you want to change, I've told you before, forget everything that you think you know about politics. Forget everything you listen on talk radio. Just pay attention to this, because that's what they do. That's why they're out there constantly increasing it, because it means more dues that come in there, and it means their increased ability to harness more people in the unending effort to expand government. That's what they do. But it's the politicization of the school system that is the huge problem. Now, once you start on that, you can restructure the rest. But right now they're creating so much debt. And then what do they do there? Do they just encourage these students to vote Democrat? No. They indoctrinate them so fully and completely that they just naturally vote not only for Democrats, but for people who are going to work to expand the modern welfare state. And the Republicans find themselves increasingly having to run to the left so as not to be seen as absolutely out of his or her mind. So when Republicans come into my office, sometimes I hear them talking about the same garbage. And when they go out there onto the streets, what is the first thing that they say? Oh, well, we need better schools and we need better law enforcement and fire safety. And that sound that you hear, that is the hair coming out of my skull, because I absolutely despair of ever communicating to this to them. So you go down there, you vote for more money for the cops and so forth, but their union will vote against you. Do not tell me how conservative cops and firemen are, because their unions aren't. Are they? No. They take that money out there and they vote for people who will vote for them. And that means there'll be laydowns in the contract negotiations. laydowns and all this stuff. It's absolutely outrageous. So on top of those, we're going to get Ed Ring in here to talk because I think everybody will see if we can't get him on for an hour and a half and go into this. But it is really crucial, and that's where the Republican Party. Now, one of the problems with building a revenue model is we've talked about this. Would this state look like it looks if every Republican, there's about 5 million people that think and vote like we do, if 5 million Republicans and fellow travelers kicked in $100 a year, we'd have $500 million a year in to spend on conservative political causes. We don't have that amount of money, but if you think that our lack of a revenue model isn't the problem, then I ask you this question. Josh, would this state look like it does if we were raising and spending $500 million a year in the state of California? No. Okay. So you just answered it. So the problem isn't the lack of a policy, is it? Yeah. And the only reason that you have a policy is this beautiful Ed Ring's Living GOP platform. Okay. What do we feed this thing? Ed, you know what we have to feed this thing? Money. We have to feed it money. And the state of California is not going to get fixed by Ed Ring. It's not going to get fixed by me. It's going to get fixed by you. So this is the key point. Well, we've talked long and hard here about our voracious, insatiable, ravenous, greedy, voracious, destructive public employees. And so it is with that in mind that we now have our Government Grifter of the Week segment. So music, maestro, please.
And now it's time for the weekly Government Grifter Award. And now here he is, Le Monsieur Juan Tierra.
Hey, Juan, how are you this evening?
Oh, fine, Mike. Nice to see all your two cohorts there tonight.
Hey, yeah, that's right. Well, we're fired up here. I almost woke these guys up here. And, yeah, hey, that's it. What do you have for us tonight? I saw your email. I'm taking something from my stomach right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to look at the city of Los Angeles. This is a pretty esoteric one, but it'll make sense pretty soon.
Yeah.
A usual source, Transparent California. Recent data, year 2018. There are 13 individuals whose pay and benefits package total more than $500,000 or $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
A trigger warning here. 9 of the top 13 are from a single city department, the Port of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
However, I'm going to start with a fire captain level 1 at $527,000. He's in the top 13.
Right.
By the way, the fire chief makes $490.
Wow.
It's kind of interesting there. Okay.
Yeah.
Deputy number 2, the third highest paid city employee, a port pilot level 2, $568,000.
What?
Right.
and our third nominee and numero uno of the highest paid city employee last year, a chief port pilot level 2, $635,000 in pay and benefits.
That's right.
By the way, the pay was about $527,000. The benefits $108,000.
Right.
Total $635,000.
Right.
Now,
before we get to your winner, let me talk about these port pilots. They are down there. Once again, the unions are at the root of this.
Absolutely.
So the Longshoremen's Union, all these other people, and the maritime unions of many different varieties control that. So when you come in to the Los Angeles port, you're captain of a vessel, you may not just drive your boat. That is your ship. I'm being vernacular here. You can't just drive that thing into our port for a lot of very good reasons. Because the water is much more shallow. The berths into which it's being located are at certain different places there. I mean, these vessels weigh tens of thousands of tons, and they're very dangerous, as we see from time to time. So when you are a few miles out, then a port pilot must travel by tugboat to your vessel, climb up into the to the wheelhouse there, up on the bridge, and then he's the one that guides the vessel in. So these guys have a monopoly on these vessels, and these foreign shippers have no choice but to use them. And so everybody gets in on the grand theft and starts reorganizing their pay accordingly, including the fire captain. Now, they do recover some of this money in port fees, but it's processed right through. So at any rate, hope I didn't steal any of your thunder there.
Oh, no, it's an interesting job. Mm-hmm. And I would point out that 9 out of 13 employees in the $500,000 range are port pilots. Sounds like a great profession. Where's our drum roll guy?
Yeah, all right. Drum roll.
And now, this week's Government Grifter Award goes to...
Numero Trace, number 3 nominee. The Chief Port Pilot Level 2. I don't know what a Level 3 would be, or a 1, but whatever.
Yeah. That's next week.
$635,000.
Yep.
It sounds like a great job.
Yep.
President of the United States makes only $400,000.
Oh, it is, man. Yeah, those guys. So over the years, when I talk about having to find different ways to deliver government services and municipal services rather than hiring millionaires to do it, you see that these guys are not only extravagantly compensated, they are by definition millionaires, and they're going to be paid pension benefits based upon a big chunk of that. And that's why the state is broke, and that's why Maryland, who is kind of Maryland from Glendale, is headed to Washington, Oregon, or Idaho. Juan Tierra, we want to thank you. How many minutes do I have?
Great job, Juan.
Yeah. I got 90 seconds here. So we see, once again, to tie it all up here into a loop, we close with this: government is out of control. There has to be another way to deliver these very important municipal services than the way that we're doing it. But they take a necessity, and then when they tax us too much, regulate the hell out of us, drive people out of their state, to where people can no longer survive, then what do they say? Basically, we didn't spend enough, so we need to spend yet more money. And this brings us back to Dinesh D'Souza's insightful comment, one of his characters there in Hillary Clinton's America: never drop the con. Even when you get caught, especially when you get caught, never drop the con. And that's what we do with Gavin Newsom's Chicago, Illinois, Barack Obama, all the rest of the thieves. We are intent on exposing the con, even knowing that they will never drop it. Thanks for being with us this week. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brooke.
Great show, Mike.
Thank you, Jeff. Great board man. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.